welcome, Marta, our security expert in everything Yocto.
Thank you, Joseph. That summarizes the thing a little bit. And surprise, surprise, I'm going to talk about security today. About the security in the latest version of the Yocto project that just went out, so that you learn about the things that are going to hit you the next LTS. Good to have a little bit of notice before, right? Do not hesitate to contact me, LinkedIn, email. Normally, I'm very easy to find on the internet. If you manage to copy-paste my name, then it should be fine. So, jokes apart, the world has changed recently for embedded developers. The last recent change is that the famous Cyber Resilience Act that I hope most of you have already heard about, it has been actually published. The clock is ticking, and the clock is December 2027. You have 3 years to make your products compatible. Good luck. The next subjects, we have more and more attacks on embedded products. And related to that, requests for security features and requests for fixes and techniques that will make those devices more resilient to attacks. And we have industry-wide subjects like the situation at the National Vulnerability Database, the one that the Yocto project is using for CVE checking. There's a very long story, and I'm not going to cover the whole of it. It has been lasting for nearly a year now. There is a problem. The latest episode is our problems of having the entity database downloaded. In my personal opinion, this is not going to end soon. So we'll have to solve that as the whole industry will have. In the Yocto project, from the technical side, there have been a lot of development going on also related to security subjects. Me and my team have been working on the cve-check rework to have the VEX style output and external tooling. I'm going to talk about this today. They have been worked by us and many other people, and thank you everyone working on secure default configuration to have Yocto project with a secure by default. A reminder, this is one of the requirements of the SCRA. Then we have had updates in the SPDX support and the new SPDX 3. In the latest version, you have SPDX 3 by default, but SPDX 2 is still available. There has been a talk by Joshua about this subject yesterday, so I'm not going to talk much more about SPDX today. And we have seen more and more layers, including the security MD file in their layers. If you haven't done it yet, add a security MD file to your layer. It is very easy to do, and it helps security researchers to report vulnerabilities in your layer in a reasonable way. So if you haven't committed security MD to the layers you maintain, do it today. Now, we have breaking news. Have you heard that Poky is not for production? And this has been apparently common knowledge, but now you get a warning. Poky message of the day is saying that it's a reference distribution and you should not be using it for production environment. Unfortunately, we have seen too many devices taking Poky as is without reviewing the configuration and just rolling it out to production with debug tweaks and everything else. So no, this is not the way to go. The way to go is to create your own distribution or review the whole Poky, remove the things that do not follow policies that you need to follow. Now, about the CVE-check changes. What's happening in this area? There are three big user visible changes: the removal of the text output format, the CPE tagging, and the external tooling. And let's get into that. So first, the original legacy output mode of the CVE-check has disappeared. Why? Because it is just hard to parse correctly, and it leads us to duplications in functionalities and code between the JSON format and the text format. And to make the migration easier, if you really need to use it, you have a script in scripts cve-json to text that can take the JSON file output and it generates you the same format as it used to be as a text format. But really, if you want to do some parsing of the CVE-check output, just please migrate to the JSON format. It's so way easier. And you can take the cve-json to text script as a template example of how you can parse it. It's really, really, really easy. In Python, it's just importing one class and then loading the file. Now, we have a little bit more complicated change. That's the tagging of the CV status. During the work on the VEX support and external tooling, sometimes we need to change the classification of the CV, so patched, unpatched, during the process, because we get more complex conditions and the assessment changes. And it will be also needed in the case of using multiple vulnerability databases. And as a side effect of that, we had a problem that we were getting CVEs that reside in general includes like the CV extra exclusions in basically every single package. This is because the CV status didn't have a way to specify which package it applies to. If you put a CV status in a specific recipe of a specific package, there's no problem because it applies only to this one. But if it's a generic include, that causes a little bit of trouble. And the solution we have come with is to add a CP tagging in the CV status. So in the CV status itself, you can add information to which product it applies to. And basically the format becomes the cause of the status as before. Then you have CPE literally, a vendor product, and as in the CPE vector, and then description as it was before. The CPE vendor product part is optional. If you do not put it, then it behaves as before. And we have an example of tagging of a CVE. In this case, we have an upstream want fix. And we are adding the information that this is the strace package that is affected, and this CV will show only for a strace and nothing else. Initially, this functionality was added because of the changes in the classification method, but finally, there are other ways how you can use it. Now you can do actually an include that contains your per product assessments. If you have some specific assessments for your product, and you can say, for example, that in your product, this package is not vulnerable to this issue because we have disabled a configuration option that that enables the vulnerable component. Then you can say that you have done analysis and you are not reaching that part of the code, and all other possible causes. It is now possible to do it this way. To be very clear with you, to work with tooling used by security analysts to actually work with your project, that will require a little bit of filtering and other tooling to merge different data formats. But still, that can be a way, partial way to solve that long-standing problem. Then it is now possible to use external tooling for CVE checking, and why it has turned out this way. So, have you ever had the problem to have to support a device for years? Probably. And then how are you going to check for CVEs a year or 2 or 3 or 5 years after the first build? You absolutely do not want to keep the complete artifacts of that build, right? You probably would like to keep all release packages. You would probably want to keep the downloaded packages because you never know if you will be able to download them in 5 years. But keeping the whole release build, well, not great. So for the CVE check, in fact, you do not need the complete build. What you need is just a package list with the versions, of course, and finally a little bit more. So we have run into a few difficulties on the road. Initially, we wanted to use SPDX as the only source of the information, but this SPDX tool does not contain all the data that is needed to perform a CVE check. Mostly, it does not contain all of the annotations that we have in CVE status, plus the patches and a few other things. And surprisingly, the VEX formats, all of them, they do not support certain cases, like the assessment saying that the CPE is incorrect for a vulnerability. So in VEX, you need to use a different case, and then to handle it automatically, it becomes complicated. And finally, we also had the NVD crisis. So we are looking for using alternative databases, and it stays actual. We may need to switch databases in the coming year. So our difficulty was that we wanted more information to be able to do the analysis separately, like diagnose, overrides, patch files, and the CVE they fix, and a few other things. So at the end, what you do have in the master and Styhead, you have the VEX BB class that outputs an augmented CVE check format. And there's the Yocto check tool that is processing, that can process that output file using NVD or the raw CVE database, currently hosted externally. And we have overrides of the CVE repository currently also separately subject for the future work. How it works, the Yocto check. So you do the distro build as usual. That outputs the SBOM and the metadata in the JSON format. And Yocto check can work with either only the metadata or the metadata plus SPDX. It takes the metadata and only the metadata. It doesn't require anything else from your build. So you can archive the metadata and fill it to the VexCheck at any moment of time. It separately downloads that it has a separate copy of databases. So in practice, the user can control at which moment we are going to download the database, and you can also do things like making sure that you check all of your builds for the same using the same database. The NV database or the CVE raw database, and it outputs the updated metadata with the current status of all vulnerabilities. So you can use all your flow as it was, and it also outputs VEX files in the OpenVEX format. So you can use, you can have both depending on the tooling that you use. And of course, there is a loop. The updated metadata you can give as an input to the cve-check if you want to have the version updated. Now, what does it mean? You can save all data that you need for a vulnerability check from a single build. And you can check the same status with two databases. The solution is modular. Every database support is a module, so it's possible to add more. For maintenance reasons, there needs to be a very good argument to do that. We have it hosted externally for now. We are going to bring it back to the Yocto project. That was a question of timing. And then the final part of the presentation will be about the future directions, and this is my opinion only. It's not an official Yocto project plan. So the urgent thing right now is to solve the NVD situation. I have a POC of an alternative pin kind of working at this moment. So it's going to come very soon now, and the long term, the external tooling with different way to download databases, that's going to help because it's separate. It can run somewhere, and we can mirror databases even. Then what I know as a committed work right now on the cve-check and friends, that's the move to the tooling to the Yocto project infrastructure. There's a little bit of work with overrides to finish first, but that is in progress and well advanced. There is a work to do to update the documentation. The current docs are unfortunately and sadly heavily out of date if you use the latest features. We have already work that has been committed. In the term of secure default, the debug tweaks has disappeared. for many reasons, and there will be proposals on the reworking of the hardening distribution from meta-security as a distro feature, allowing you to have a production level security in a distribution, in any distribution. But I have a lot of other ideas, and they didn't. They take more than just those 2 slides. On the vulnerability management, we have the question of merging results from multiple databases, especially as the NVD situation hasn't been solved now. The current law changes may force some of the developers to use a country-specific vulnerability database. So that's going to be interesting. We have a little work that would be good to do on the VEX encoding, like stacking of vulnerability assessments from multiple sources. SPDX3 has landed at the same time as the VEX integration, so we do not have support for SPDX3. Unfortunately, SPDX3 has a different VEX format than the 2 VEX formats that existed until now. So I'm pretty unhappy about this. Then I think a very interesting subject, integrating the support of vulnerability and SBOM reporting from the Yocto project with all the parts of a system, like the host SBOMs, the SBOMs from different RTOSes, and having a common view from all of that. That's pretty interesting. And the need of better synchronization between different teams working on the Yocto project on backup porting fixes for old releases. A long-standing problem. We still need to solve it. On the secure default side, I would like to see a possibility to run services easily as a separate users. By easy, I mean you add a single include and it's done. And having best practices blueprint will help people in projects like using secure boot, having system update, of having alternatives to debug tweaks in a ready-to-use way, so that you get the blueprint, you integrate it, and it is a reasonable way to use it, and you do not have to hack for a week all around the place. And then another interesting part, reviewing the options that we have in our packages so that they are actually secure by default. It's a big work, but it is required by the CRA. So that will be the time for questions. I'm going to stop sharing.